those stories sometimes hurt.
All of this revisionist, woke curriculum, you are not going to do this to our children.
It's anti-American training that vilifies white people and demands they apologize.
Defunding schools that teach critical race theory and gender ideology. CRT for short is a core idea that race is a social construct and that racism is not merely the product of individual bias or prejudice, but also something that is embedded in legal systems and policies.
Another element here, you pointed it out with critical race theory and CRT. Another one that is meant to defund those aspects and root that out in the education system, saying that it prohibits federal funding of the indoctrination of children, which includes radical gender ideology, critical race theory in the classroom. Goes on to say that the Attorney General will work with state attorneys and local district attorneys to file actions against teachers and school officials.
This one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you.
So much to discuss. It ain't even funny, y'all. I mean, it's a lot to talk about. So if you will, y'all, please take the time right now to hit that like button. If you ain't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. It is very important that we get the subscription up. And also, one of the most important things for you to do is to share this message. We really, really, really want to get this message out there to the masses of us so that we can understand what's going on currently right now in the world that we're living in. That is my objective. That is my purpose. That is my calling. That is my passion. That is my desire to keep you informed. I do the deep dives. I do the deep dives. I go in and find out what it is that we need to know about to keep us in the know. Because a lot of people would rather turn a blind eye to things, or they'd rather keep you dubbed down and dumb or ignorant to things because they don't want you to have a reaction to it. And they benefit from your lack of understanding. And until they're ready for you to react to certain things, then they control the narrative by keeping you misinformed or less informed. So as a determined black man, as I tell y'all all the time, I don't have a racist bone in my body. My thing is, I'm all about my people. My people have been suffering way too long. We are at the bottom of the barrel in every race in life besides being last. You know, and we are, and that's not an insult to us from me, you know what I'm saying? But it is just being brutally honest. Like, it's time for us to wake up. Black people, so-called black people, I love you. I love you. I love you more than you would ever understand. And that's why I'm willing to put my life on the line. And that's why I'm willing to go in deeper and deeper to find out the constructs that have been constructed against us. And that's the only way that we would ever be able to truly set ourselves free. And I did say set ourselves free because there's no greater time for us to understand this than now. A lot of us have put our faith in these different parties, whether it be red or blue, you know what I mean, Democratic or Republican. And now you have an even greater divide in America amongst men and women, but especially a race divide. It's been a race divide. And so what I'm about to discuss with you right now will only give you a mind's eye view as to what is really going on and how what's going on will affect us all. And that it is important for us to know, not to just turn our head like it's not happening. So your power is in knowing and being able to act without waiting until the moment of catastrophic events or whatever may take place and then having a reaction. It's better for you to be prepared for war than to get ready for war in the midst of war. So right now, what I'm telling you is there is a war brewing underneath the surface. And that war, it stems from fear. It stems from the fear of a certain group of people being afraid to lose their particular hope or their particular place or position in this world. But I'm here to tell you that fall, that fail that they're trying to miss is inevitable. Yes, the fall of Babylon, I should say, it's not it's being built. And so right now what we on the course of is a downward spiral. It's something that's falling totally out of control. And in order to keep you under control or under a spell, I've discussed with y'all many times what I think about English language and spells and things of that nature. We're not going to jump into that. We're just going to keep it on course. To keep you dubbed down, to keep you from actually questioning or looking further into it. They fill us with lies. They tell you what you want to hear. That's either side. They tell you what you want to hear. They ping pong off each other. You look at one side as the good side or the evil side because you hear them with the bickering and taking all these shots at each other, you know what I'm saying? And so they demonize one another. And so it leaves the American public in a seesaw. Because at this point right now, like I said, a lot of these reactions are strictly out of fear. So let me start with the first thing, because I know a lot of people have been talking about things that really don't matter. Like, I mean, even a lot of you brothers, I'm really disappointed in you. You know what I'm saying? Because I've noticed a trend, and also a TikTok that's gone viral based off of misinformation, false information. Not to say that it won't come true, or that it's not on the plans or the agenda, but it just hasn't happened this far. But we seem to get distracted very easily, which leads us to turn a blind eye to what's really in hand, what's really going on right in front of our faces. So, as many of you already may know, Trump signed an executive order day one to terminate DEI. That's diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. That bill was created to help aid a particular group of people, you know, in layman's terms, black and brown people. Because it was not just something to do. It was done because there was a
purpose of critical race theory is to provide Americans with a way to understand the legacy of racism, even though those stories sometimes...
All of this revisionist, woke curriculum, you are not going to do this to our children.
The best learning for students about social studies and about our democracy and our country is the learning where students can really grapple with the issues and really come to a deeper understanding of how our past
Training that vilifies white people and demands they apologize.
Teachers across the country are caught in the middle of the latest flashpoint in America's culture war, critical race theory. So what exactly is it? And why is there a push to ban it in schools?
Critical race theory is a body of ideas and a set of approaches to understanding the history and the present of American society that looks at the ways in which racial unfairness have been woven into the fabric of our institutions.
In other words, critical race theory, or CRT for short, is a legal academic framework centered on the idea that racism is systemic. It first started to coalesce in the 1970s, when Black, Hispanic, and Asian legal scholars were researching the persistence of inequality, despite the landmark legal victories of the Civil Rights era.
The legal scholars undertook a set of analyses and investigations that were aimed at trying to make sense of the puzzling persistence of racism in our legal system, in our political system, in our economy.
CRT has been studied in fields like sociology, economics, and political science. It's been used to examine issues such as housing and educational segregation, unconscious bias, and criminal justice reform.
Contrary to what often critics portray as sort of judging people intrinsically as being racist or not, or holding people responsible for, slavery in the past, it is actually to open up a conversation of how we all inherit and live in a society sort of beyond our choosing, right? We didn't choose where we were born or what racial group we were part of, and yet we have this common history. How do we understand that history? What does it mean for us? Those are the sorts of questions that critical race theorists were trying to grapple with.
The racial reckoning spurred by the police killing of George Floyd brought the decades-old framework back into the spotlight, as some schools sought to implement reforms that better address race in classrooms.
I think the thing that critical race theory would add to that conversation is that we not sort of confine that horrific example to Derek Chauvin, but to think about how, well, there were other law enforcement officers present, including officers of color, who stood idly by. And so that pushes us to think about, this phenomenon as not simply one of, racism by whites against blacks, right? I mean, it makes us think more critically, more engaged, more seriously around, well, why do these practices happen?
The push against CRT gained steam under former President Trump, when he directed federal agencies to end any diversity trainings related to critical race theory. Though ultimately blocked on First Amendment grounds and rescinded by President Biden, the fight over CRT at the state level is still in full effect.
The focus on CRT is a way to latch onto a concept that very few people sort of really understand, which sounds kind of scary perhaps to someone not, trained in what it means, and latch onto that as a kind of football in this sort of ongoing fight over, the future of this country with regard to racism.
As of mid-June 2021, 21 states have introduced bills attempting to restrict the teaching of critical race theory and or impose limits on how race is discussed inside the classroom. And those limits are often vague.
And instructors, educators, especially at the K-12 level, will just not go there, will not run the risk of upsetting parents or, being misunderstood or drawing the ire of, lawmakers.
In Texas, for instance, House Bill 3979 says teachers must explore current events from multiple positions without giving, quote, deference to any one perspective.
There's language in this bill, like teachers need to present a balanced perspective on current events, for instance. They have to do their due diligence to present multiple viewpoints. But what happens if they're talking about an issue in the classroom and they tried to present multiple viewpoints, but the student comes home and tells their parent about the lesson that day, and the parent thinks, well, they didn't do a good enough job of presenting this viewpoint. So who decides when the teacher has done an adequate job of presenting multiple perspectives on an issue? It saddens me and disappoints me that instead of really embracing this opportunity to confront our nation's past and to tell authentic and more accurate narratives about experiences of diverse people in this country, that we're looking to sweep it under the rug. We're looking to erase it even further from our memories.
So DEI was created to help aid an issue with the hiring practices and the monopoly that was taking place here in America. Yeah, if you wanted these particular jobs, you had to be a particular race of people. You had to be a particular color. You wanted to be accepted into certain institutions, certain schools, you had to be of a certain race, a certain color. So that construct was noticed. And so one of these parties took it upon themselves to come up with policy that would combat that and that would possibly help us in this war, or this race, I should say, to close the racial wealth gap. Because capitalism is the way, you know what I'm saying? So like you can't close the racial wealth gap without giving the group that's being dominated an opportunity to sustain, or opportunity to actually make money, capital, to capitalize. So in order to get our feet in the door, they created this policy. And so that companies would be mandated to hire so many of these minorities. So, I'm not saying that black and brown people were the only ones to benefit from DEI, but I'm saying that it was created in that they created because it was a problem. So that problem still persists. That problem is still pretty much the same as it was when that law was created, when those policies were created. It's gotten a little better, but not tremendously. However, if we're saying that it was a problem to begin with, and that problem still is unresolved, but this is good policy because it at least gave us a small percentage to the upside, then how is it possible? What is threatened, or what purpose do you say that we no longer need that? Only if maybe perhaps you are trying to fulfill something of another agenda that you're not discussing with. So I'm led to believe that this administration has no love for us. And I don't think that the last one had any love for us either. The only difference is about with Donald Trump, this administration, I should say, is that, as I've said many of times, I told y'all I am not a Trump supporter. I think he's a bigot, a racist, all types of things I can see. But I have to be honest with you all. I have to be honest with myself. I like the fact that he puts things out there that no other president or nobody of his caliber has ever done before. So here's the wild card, as I've told y'all before. And in order to attack your enemy, or in order for you to get an upside on your enemy, one of the greatest arts of war is to know thyself. Well, if your enemy, or the people that are constructing these different systematic things that are keeping you oppressed and down and without, never shows his hand, keeps his hand tucked under the table, it never gives you an idea of how that thing was constructed or is continuing to be constructed. If you are not given anything to build a case, then what do you have? How can you build at all? How can you even begin to build? So what I think that Trump's Eliminate DEI has done is also put cracks in our foundation. And if any of you know anything about, just the slightest about construction, or the construction of a building or a house, anything with a foundation, then if you crack the foundation, the structure will soon thereafter crumble. It will fall. It will come tumbling down. So this is tremendous, y'all. This is really important. It's way more important than talking about having to split the taxes with your baby mama or whatever, you know what I'm saying, that this big TikTok went viral about, which I think the guy came out and said that he never thought it would have went this far. It was just a lie. He just tried to throw it out there to see what would happen. Everybody's doing all types of stuff to go viral. Everybody's doing it. I mean, even some of these people I'm speaking in reference to, they use social construct, they use social media to push certain ideologies, certain ideas. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact that Elon Musk bought Twitter because he said, he had a thing, a bone to pick about freedom of speech. And so in him doing so, as I told you on another video, it exposed a lot. Now, am I just an Elon fan? No. And the more I learn about him, the less I am. But I also say from that a lot of information, just like I told you about Trump. A lot of y'all might say I'm a Trump supporter just because I say I like the thing that he does, for the simple fact it provides me with information. Information is key. Information is powerful, especially when you can take that information and put it into action, which is what I'm trying to convey over to you all today. I don't want to just give you lip service. I want to give you information that can help put us in a better situation. This nation right now is on a decline. It's not, like I said, it's not if it's going to fall, it's when. And right now it's free fall. And a lot of this stuff is just fluff and distraction to keep you from understanding that, to keep you from taking a deeper look into that. Just the same as him defunding underserviced community. Now, who do you think will be most greatly targeted and harmed by the defunding of underserviced community? I'm not saying that none of them are poor or living in underserviced community, because by far they are the majority, right? So by far it would be more numbers leaning towards them than it would be us or per capita. You know, would it strike you if I told you that there's a study that shows that 400 of the richest white men, I'm just gonna say it like this because I don't want the infraction. Would it strike you? Would you believe that if I told you 400 of the richest white men make up accumulatively, together, collectively, they make up more wealth than our entire race? It's about roughly 40, let's just say 40 million black people, so-called black people in America. It only takes 400 of them to make about, collectively, make about our entire bottom line. That's not only frightening to me, but that's one of the most harshest realities to face. And I ask myself, how is it that we can spend all these trillions of dollars every year? How do we continue to be tricked out the money we work so hard for? The money that we get taxed on the top and bottom and in the middle. How is it that we haven't waken up yet? And how is it that we can allow now a president to come in and to start all this upheaval and uproar, but still nobody get the picture? Not only did he terminate DEI, not only is he targeting underserviced communities, he also has terminated or signed executive orders to terminate several laws that protect our civil rights. I mean, things that our forefathers, our ancestors fought and died for. I mean, literally bled out, lost blood and life. Then what's even funnier, or not so funny, because I just laugh a lot of times to keep from crying. But it's funny that the inauguration, a celebration for the president, the inauguration of our most highest position in the land, also took place on a day that has been set aside that we celebrate, which is also the day of the assassination of one of the greatest, or I'll say the biggest black civil rights activists ever, Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., which I'm not 100% fond of a lot of things, because I can go into a lot of details about, and as to suggest why they always put Dr. Martin Luther King ahead of all of our other civil rights activists. Perhaps because he actually, a lot of his early messages were more beneficial towards the motive that they had anyway. You know what I'm saying? It was more beneficial towards, like, anyway. So, to keep us docile, to keep us quiet and low key, and turn the other cheek, non-violent. Yeah, so that fit the construct clause